The SIG Sauer P229 carry SAS in 357 SIG. When we last visited this little pistol, I was doing my first 100, and that was not long ago. This is a brand new gun. It is a limited edition. But I also had some little bit of an issue, had some weird behavior with it where every once in a while the hammer would follow the slide. Happened about 4 or 5 times, maybe, out of 100. So, yeah, more frequently certainly than you'd like, and it happened enough times that I decided to send it right back to SIG and let them check that out. So what I did was, called SIG up, they gave me an RMA, I returned it to them, and they had it for just a short period of time, and they got it right back to me. So the gunsmith at SIG took a look at it, and the diagnosis was that it had a weak sear spring. Sear spring was probably out of spec or whatever, and was a little bit weak, and that was allowing that hammer to occasionally follow. And I'm sure, since it was a spring and springs can only wear and get weaker as they go, that problem probably would have continued to get more and more frequent. So didn't seem to be anything unsafe. You know, the gun didn't go full auto or anything fun like that. But here it is back, and I'm getting ready to take it out and run some more ammo through it, sort of retest it, if you will. And quite honestly, I'm just anxious to get it back out and play with it again. But I thought, while this thing was at SIG getting fixed, I would take the opportunity to get a couple of extra toys to go with it. So I got an extra magazine. I called up the SIG store, got an extra mag for it, but I also got an extra barrel. This barrel is 40 Smith & Wesson. This gun, this limited edition 229C, is available in either 40 Smith & Wesson or 357 SIG. This one is 357 SIG. The only difference between those two guns is that which barrel they drop in. So I now have a 40 Smith & Wesson barrel that I can drop into this gun, and I can have my cake and shoot it too. So I can shoot 357, I can shoot 40 Smith & Wesson, either or, just as simply as dropping in a different barrel. So I'm definitely going to do that when I get this thing out to the range. So I didn't talk too much about the numbers, the specs on this gun when I had it out for the first 100, as I typically don't. But let me run through some of those now, put those up here on the screen for you. Again, it's available in 40 or 357 SIG. This is a double action, single action pistol. Single action trigger is rated at 4.4 pounds. I measure it just about 5 pounds. Double action pull is rated at 10 pounds. I didn't measure that because that's usually a little too heavy for my gauge, but it's probably in the 10 to 12 pound range. Overall length of the pistol is 6.7 inches. Overall height is just under 5.5. It's 1.3 inches thick, which is pretty stout for a carry gun. Barrel length is 3.5 inches, that I had mentioned before. Sight radius is 5.3 inches. Pretty respectable for a small gun like this. The gun weighs a fairly healthy 31 ounces with an empty magazine. Of course, that's because it's an aluminum alloy frame and a stainless steel slide. There's a lot of meat there. Carries 12 rounds in either caliber in the magazine, plus 1, of course, in the chamber, giving us 12 plus 1 capacity. The sights are SIG Light night sights, that 3-dot combat sight picture, which is also tritium. Very typical SIG sights in every way. If you like them, you'll like them. If you don't like them, you won't like them. The G10 checker grips are awesome as far as functional. I think they look fine, but they definitely are extremely functional. One of the best gripping surfaces of any handgun I have. I love SIG's application with G10 material in their grips, and I think I'm not sure if they contract all of them out to Hogue. I know a number of them for their Extreme series and so on, and I think maybe the Legion series are contracted out to Hogue. I'm not sure if that's across the board for all of them or not, but these are excellent, excellent grips. We have our normal hardcoat black anodized aluminum frame, and we have our nitron coated stainless steel slide. The The gun does take regular P229 magazines, so there's nothing special about the size of the magazine, and it is a standard capacity magazine. That's part of the whole carry configuration with SIG. MSRP is $11.76. I can almost guarantee if you shop around you can find them underneath that. And this is a very good value handgun. I talked about the trigger weight being just about 5 pounds for the single action. Let me just demonstrate it a little bit and show you this reset, because this does have the short reset system. So if I go ahead and take the first shot double action, there's my 10-pound pull. Now with the trigger completely back, cycle the slide, and I'll give you a look at the reset here. That's it. It is short, and it is crisp, and there is no take up after that reset. You are right at the wall. Show it again. That's it. And then you got that 5 pounds or just under 5 pounds break. It is a very sweet trigger on a really sweet little gun. Okay, enough yakking. Let's get this thing back out to the range and get some more rounds through it. Okay, here we go. 357 SIG through the P229C. Freshly back. Okay, well that was a quick 30 at 10 yards. And it looks like they're all down 0, so I'll take it. Well, that burned through 30 rounds really quick. Let's burn through 20 more, make it an even 50. Go up top to the head. And that, my friends, is how you burn through 50 rounds of 357 SIG in a hurry. I had a request to compare this gun to the P225A1. So here they are, side by side. You probably can tell which one's which, but boy, they are just about identically sized, aren't they? So let me stand them up. We'll look at the height. I know at your angle there at home, it's not quite as easy to see, but the height is almost exactly the same. Now I know that they're on a little bit of a soft surface and all that, so I'm not trying to be completely scientific here. But the height is almost exactly the same. The length of the pistols, almost exactly the same. Now the width is going to be a major difference. Obviously we've got on top the P225A1, it's a single stack 9mm, and then on the bottom we have our 229 carry in its standard configuration, which is a double stack. but you've also got a lot more slide there. But there you go. For the person who requested it and anybody else who has general interest, there's a comparison side by side. And there's probably the best look at the biggest difference, and that's going to be the thickness. They both have G10 grips. The P225 actually has what I personally feel are a little bit nicer G10 grips, and they've got that extra touch of that SIG medallion in it. P225A1 it's just a class act. But so is the 229C. Grips aren't as fancy, but they are just as comfortable and just as grippy. So there's your comparison. I hope that was good enough. Now, well, it looks like I have run out of 357 SIG ammo for my 357 SIG pistol. That would be a big problem, except I have this, a 40 Smith & Wesson barrel. So I'm going to swap it. Just like this. Okay, so let me just demonstrate this really complicated procedure to convert this 357 SIG to 40 Smith & Wesson. Are you paying attention? There you go. Never before been shot. Totally a virgin barrel. So, put away the 357 SIG barrel. And this pistol is now 40 Smith & Wesson. Magazines are exactly the same. I got me some SIG Sauer Elite Performance 40 Smith & Wesson ammo. Let's load this thing up and have some more fun. Okay, so even though I've got a couple hundred rounds already through the P229C in 357 SIG, I just dropped a 40 Smith & Wesson barrel in it, and these will be my very first shots of 40 Smith & Wesson. It's almost like another first 100 all over again. In that case, I guess I'll start off a little slow and try and make it look good anyway. I freshened my target with a cover. Covered up all the holes from the 357 SIG. That gives me a couple of black dots to shoot at, so let's go for that lower 1-inch square black dot. 10 yards is my distance. Shooting SIG Elite Performance 180 grain full metal jacket. Pistol feels good even with 40 Smith & Wesson or 357 SIG. It doesn't seem to matter much. Almost feels like there's a little more recoil to the 40 than to the 357 SIG. But I think 357 is just a snappier round, where 40 is a little more of a rolling type of recoil. You handgun shooters, hopefully that makes sense to you. There's 30. Kind of mangled the middle of the target. So I've put a couple hundred rounds through this gun today so far. Combination of 357 SIG and 40 Smith & Wesson, not a single problem. So I think it's safe to say that the folks at SIG did a bang up job. Thanks to the folks at SIG Customer Service, the gunsmiths, finding the problem quick, fixing it and getting it back to me quick, and it is perfect.